NATO at a crossroads. Trump challenges the post-Cold War security order in Ankara. The 2026 NATO summit exposes growing divisions within the alliance as Washington questions the permanence of its military commitment to Europe. By Aslan Adnan, M.A., Wednesday, 8 July 2026. The 36th NATO summit, held in Ankara, Turkey, on the 7th to 8th of July 2026, may ultimately be remembered less for its official communiqué than for the questions it raised about the future of the transatlantic alliance. Although NATO leaders reaffirmed their commitment to collective defense under Article 5, the summit exposed widening differences over defense spending, the war in Ukraine, relations with Russia, and the long-term role of the United States in European security. Hosting the summit, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan sought to portray Turkey as an indispensable strategic bridge between Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. For Ankara, the summit was an opportunity to strengthen its influence within NATO while pressing for closer integration into Western defense industrial programs and a reassessment of restrictions affecting Turkish defense procurement. The principal focus, however, quickly shifted to U.S. President Donald Trump. Even before arriving in Ankara, Trump had reignited controversy by criticizing several European allies over what he described as inadequate support during the recent conflict with Iran. He argued that many NATO members continued to rely excessively on American military power while contributing too little to their own defense. This criticism was not entirely new. Since his first presidency, Trump has consistently maintained that NATO's burden-sharing arrangements unfairly favor Europe at the expense of American taxpayers. His administration has repeatedly urged European governments to increase defense expenditure, arguing that wealthy nations should assume greater responsibility for their own security. What made the Ankara summit different was the growing indication that these complaints may now be accompanied by concrete policy changes. Trump suggested that the United States was reviewing the scale of its military deployment across Europe, where approximately 80,000 American troops remain stationed. While no formal withdrawal timetable has been announced, his remarks reinforced reports that Washington is reassessing its force posture as part of a broader strategic review. Should such reductions occur, they would represent one of the most significant changes in American military strategy since the end of the Cold War. For over 75 years, the U.S. military presence has formed the backbone of NATO's conventional deterrence. American bases, logistics hubs, intelligence facilities, and air assets are spread across Germany, Italy, the United Kingdom, Poland, Spain, and several other allied countries. Their purpose has been not only to defend Europe, but also to reassure allies that the United States would respond rapidly to any external aggression. Supporters of Trump's approach argue that the geopolitical environment has fundamentally changed. The Soviet Union no longer exists. European economies collectively possess sufficient wealth to finance their own defense. From this perspective, the continued dependence of Europe upon American military protection appears increasingly difficult to justify. This argument also reflects a broader philosophy of strategic restraint. Rather than maintaining extensive overseas deployments indefinitely, proponents argue that the United States should focus primarily on defending its own territory while allowing regional powers to assume greater responsibility for their own security. Viewed from this perspective, a gradual reduction of American forces in Europe could be interpreted as a form of de-escalation rather than abandonment. Russia has consistently portrayed NATO's eastward expansion and the deployment of Western military infrastructure near its borders as direct security threats. Moscow has long objected to NATO's growing presence in countries bordering Russia or lying close to Russian territory. These include Finland, which joined NATO in 2023 and shares a frontier of approximately 1,340 kilometers with Russia, the three Baltic republics of Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and Poland, which borders Russia through the Kaliningrad exclave. Belarus, while not a NATO member, also occupies an important strategic position between Russia and NATO's eastern members. Supporters of reducing the American military footprint contend that fewer permanent U.S. deployments along Russia's western frontier could lower perceptions of encirclement and reduce the risk of military miscalculation. They argue that lowering visible military pressure may contribute to a less confrontational security environment. Whether such a development would genuinely improve European security remains highly contested. NATO officials and many European governments maintain the opposite view. They argue that the forward deployment of American forces has helped preserve peace in Europe for decades, precisely because it serves as a powerful deterrent against aggression. From this perspective, reducing U.S. forces without a corresponding improvement in relations with Russia could create strategic uncertainty rather than stability. The summit therefore highlighted two competing schools of strategic thought. One views military strength and forward deployment as essential to maintaining peace through deterrence. The other suggests that reducing military confrontation and encouraging greater regional self-reliance may lower tensions and lessen the risk of future conflict. Neither position is without risks. Erdogan used the summit to emphasize Turkey's growing strategic importance. Located at the intersection of Europe, the Black Sea, the Caucasus, and the Middle East, Turkey occupies one of NATO's most important geographical positions. Ankara has sought greater participation in European defense initiatives while maintaining dialogue with both Western allies and regional powers. Despite the public disagreements, NATO leaders succeeded in preserving formal unity. The summit declaration reaffirmed Article 5, emphasizing that an attack on one ally remains an attack on all. European leaders also highlighted increased defense investment and new defense procurement initiatives intended to demonstrate that the alliance is responding to long-standing American concerns regarding burden sharing. Nevertheless, the Ankara summit may prove to be a turning point. Rather than asking whether NATO will survive, the more important question may be what kind of alliance it will become. If Europe continues increasing defense expenditure, while the United States gradually reduces its permanent military presence, NATO could evolve from an alliance dominated by American power into one characterized by greater European strategic autonomy supported, but no longer overwhelmingly led, by Washington. Whether that transformation strengthens or weakens European security will depend not only upon defense budgets and troop numbers, but also upon diplomacy, political cohesion, and the willingness of member states to assume greater responsibility for their own security. The Ankara summit therefore represents more than another annual gathering of allied leaders. It marks another chapter in the gradual redefinition of the transatlantic relationship, one in which assumptions that have guided European security since 1945 are increasingly being questioned. Whether this ultimately produces greater stability through strategic restraint or greater uncertainty through diminished deterrence remains one of the defining geopolitical questions of the coming decade.
The author has placed this work in the public domain. It may be freely imported, exported, shared, distributed, edited, modified, or reformatted without explicit consent from the author. As a visually impaired person, the author asserts his rights under the Marrakesh Treaty to facilitate access to published works for persons who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled. 2013, wipo.int.
Early bird registration for my September 5th event is valid until July 31st for a minimum donation of 150 ringgit made before July 31st. You can attend my September 5th event. All proceeds for all your donations will be used not just for your meal for the day, but also for my various eye treatments and sponsoring some persons with disability to attend the event. From July onwards, it will be 150 ringgit until the end of July. Then in August, it will go up to 200 ringgit. Thank you.
How to attend Aislan Adnan's Meet the Author luncheon at the Hungry Tapir, 135 Petaling Street, Kuala Lumpur, Short walking distance from the Pasar Seni MRT LRT station from 12:30 hours, Saturday, 5th September 2026.
Step 1. Download all my 30+ books on nutrition for free from Z Library using this URL. However, there is a limit of 10 downloads a day from Z Library. The workaround is to download them, and 2,250 plus others, from my Optimal Health Community Telegram broadcast channel at EPUB Electronic Publishing. All my free ebooks are published in .EPUB electronic publishing format. If you are still living in the dark ages and only know .PDF, portable document format, and never heard of .EPUB, don't worry. You are about to have a mind-blowing experiential learning journey. If you use an Apple device, .EPUB files open in the Books app. If you are an Android user, use Universal Book Reader or a similar app. If you need further instructions on how to read .EPUB documents, just ask your favorite AI app to teach you. If you have never used an AI app before, start with Grok, Gemini, or ChatGPT. Then move on to DeepSeek, Claude, or Kling later.
Step 2. I have put all my books in the public domain, and you may share them freely. In fact, I strongly implore you to do so. Viralize them, make sure they reach every person who needs the knowledge contained in them. In Malaysia, the most recent data from the National Health and Morbidity Survey 2023 shows that 21.8% of adults are obese and 32.6% are overweight. This means the total combined rate is 54.4% of adults. Scary huge percentages of Malaysians are diabetic or suffer from other non-communicable diseases, NCDs. To be specific, in Malaysia, about 15.5% of adults have chronic kidney disease, CKD, up from 9.1% in 2011. Around 21.4% of adults aged 30 and above are at high risk of cardiovascular disease, CVD. Among older adults, about 8.5% have dementia, equating to roughly 260,000 people as of 2022. A nation is only as strong as its human capital. How strong can a nation be if more than half its population is fat, sick, and nearly dead? Of what good can you be to your family if you are fat, sick, and nearly dead? You owe it to yourself to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be.
Step 3. Read the books, follow whatever advice that makes sense to you. If something doesn't make sense to you, or causes cognitive dissonance, you can ask me clarifying questions on the 5th of September. Also, be prepared to report on the 5th of September what improvements in your health you have noticed. So far, one person has seen her total cholesterol level drop from always above 5 to 4.6. Another has resolved a chronic constipation issue. I have written 2 books on human stool classification and stool analysis. Another person who wakes up every morning with a white layer of mucus on her tongue for more than half her life now wakes up with a clear tongue. Step 4. Make the minimum donation by the required dates. The longer you prevaricate, the higher the minimum donation gets. Minimum donation per pax: 100 ringgit for donations received by June 30th, 150 ringgit for donations received by July 31st, 200 ringgit for donations received by August 31st, 500 ringgit for donations received by the 5th of September and for walk-ins. Places are limited. However, I do not wish to deprive anyone. If enough people register, we can take over the whole restaurant, so make your donations early to reserve your place. Purpose: your donations will go towards sponsoring persons with disability, PWD, to attend the event and also towards my various ongoing eye treatments. Sponsorship: if you run a business and wish to promote your business, you can sponsor door gifts, gift vouchers, or even cash.
Vegivore Food Therapy proudly presents Ask Me Anything on Nutrition.
Your attention please. Vegivore Food Therapy proudly organizes a unique, transformative event on Saturday, 5 September 2026, starting at 12:30 hours at the Hungry Tapir, 135 Jalan Petaling Street, 50000, Kuala Lumpur. For a minimum donation of 100 ringgit, attendees will secure a seat at this rare opportunity. Aslan Adnan, M.A., polymath and autodidact, will guide the session. A writer and researcher in nutrition science, Aslan has authored dozens of books on plant-based bioactives, antioxidants, and the chemistry of whole foods. In this session, he will lead a dynamic Ask Me Anything on Nutrition session. All 30 of his nutrition books are in the public domain and are downloadable at the link below. Attendees must read these books in advance and come prepared with their questions. This is a singular chance to engage with one of today's leading independent nutrition thinkers. Don't miss it. A healthy, whole food, plant-based lunch with the menu curated by Aslan Adnan will be served. No need to write your name in the reference of the bank transfer, as it will automatically be displayed, but include your phone number in case we need to contact you for any last-minute changes.
We will also celebrate Aslan's 68th birthday.
Some of you have been wondering why a YouTube channel devoted to green political philosophy and ideology would address health issues. The stark facts are these. Data from the National Health and Morbidity Survey in Malaysia 2023 shows that 54.4% of adults are either overweight or obese, with 32.6% classified as overweight and 21.8% as obese. Abdominal obesity, per Roy, was also reported at 54.5%. Compared to 2011, the combined prevalence of overweight and obesity has increased from 44.5% to 54.4%. According to the same survey, 15.6% of adults in Malaysia have been diagnosed with diabetes, kencing manis. Additionally, about 21.4% of Malaysian adults aged 30 and above have a high 10-year calculated risk of developing cardiovascular disease, CVD, sakit jantung. In Malaysia, precise prevalence data for diagnosed CVD is somewhat limited. Data from 2010 to 2021 indicated that 16.6% of all registered deaths were due to CVD. A 2015 survey found that 14.1% of working-age adults had diabetes, 24.5% had hypertension, and 45.9% had high cholesterol. The World Heart Federation also noted in 2022 that around 11% of deaths in Malaysia are linked to CVD. In 2011, the prevalence of chronic kidney disease, CKD, sakit buah pinggang, was 9.07%. A nationwide study in Malaysia in 2018 estimated that 15.48% of adults, over 5 million people, have CKD. It really is alarming. These numbers are striking, especially when you consider how rapidly they have grown over just a decade. It is a massive public health challenge. In light of these statistics, the implications for nation building and capacity building are stark. What value does a nation have if more than half its population are fat, sick, and nearly dead?
Are you fat, sick, and nearly dead? Well, according to the data from the latest survey, 54.8% of Malaysians are. In fact, the statistics are quite scary. So if you or any of your loved ones are in this high-risk category, don't despair. I have good news for you. I've written more than 30 books on nutrition, and you can download them all for free. The only limitation is you can only download 10 books per day from Z Library. However, you can download almost 2,500 books from my Telegram broadcast channel. I'll give you the link shortly. And if you're overwhelmed by 30 books, in fact, these 30 books, I've designed them so that they could cover the undergraduate syllabus of a nutrition or dietetics course, or the nutritional needs for a medical student. Anyway, if you think you're overwhelmed, you don't know where to start with this book. And then as you progress, you can, go deeper, take a deep dive into the other books. And if you want to meet me to discuss what you've read in the books, you have a chance in September to do so. However, there are 5 places already been taken up, and there are limited seats, so the sooner you register, the sooner you'll reserve a place for yourself. Attendance is by donation, so details are in the following video.
It is for this reason that I've written more than 30 books on health and nutrition and put them all in the public domain. Why nutrition? Because nutrition is the single biggest factor and lowest hanging fruit we can address to improve our health. 80% of our health is influenced by nutrition, which is our biggest exposure to the environment. The others are genetics, at 5%. But even with genetics, the emerging science of epigenetics shows how we can switch off bad genes and switch on good ones with nutrition. The remaining 15% relate to other lifestyle factors, including sleep, meditation, relationships, air quality, and so forth.
Important note on event registration fees. Super Early Bird. Donation received by the 30th of June 2026. Minimum donation of 100 ringgits. Early Bird. Donation received between the 1st and the 31st of July 2026. Minimum donation of 150 ringgits. Normal registration. Donation received between the 1st and the 31st of August 2026. Minimum donation of 200 ringgits. Late registration. Donation received between 1st to 5th September 2026. Minimum donation of 500 ringgits. All proceeds after deducting third-party costs will go towards Aslan Adnan's various ongoing eye treatments to hopefully reverse or at least arrest his macular degeneration, cataracts, photophobia, mydriasis, dry eyes, and etc. This is mission critical as, if his vision fails, he'll no longer be able to produce, edit, or upload videos. Your voluntary contributions and donations are a critical success factor. As such, your generosity, empathy, compassion, and kindness are well and truly appreciated. We thank you in advance for your invaluable help and assistance in making this event a resounding success.
About the author. Aslan Adnan, M.A., is a writer and independent researcher whose work focuses on nutrition science, food systems, and the biological foundations of human health. His writing examines how natural foods contain complex compounds that interact with human physiology in ways that may support long-term well-being. He has a particular interest in plant-based bioactive compounds such as polyphenols, carotenoids, flavonoids, and other phytochemicals found in fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, algae, and fungi. His research explores how these compounds function in plants and how they may influence human nutrition when consumed as part of a balanced diet. Aslan approaches nutrition from a multidisciplinary perspective, drawing on biochemistry, plant biology, and public health nutrition. His work aims to translate complex scientific concepts into clear explanations so that readers can better understand the nutritional value of everyday foods. He is the author of several books examining natural sources of antioxidants and other dietary compounds. Author of the Antioxidant series, Antioxidants in Herbs and Spices, Antioxidants in Algae, Microalgae, and Fungi, Antioxidants in Fruits and Vegetables, Antioxidants in Nuts and Seeds, Antioxidants in Berries. Author of the Nutrient series, Macronutrients, Volume 1, Carbohydrates, Macronutrients Volume 2, Lipids. Macronutrients Volume 3, Proteins. Micronutrients, vitamins, trace elements, and minerals. Anti-nutrients, the hidden blockers in your food. Phytonutrients, the quiet power of plants. Water, the forgotten fourth, a macronutrient you can't ignore. Other books on health and nutrition. Tuberculosis Briefing Paper, 2nd edition. Aslan's 5-Powder Manifesto. Eating the Greek Way, how cultural habits support health without trying. Ideology on a Plate, how Robert F. Kennedy Jr. turned U.S. dietary guidelines into a scientific farce. Maslow in 2026, a practical guide to actual needs, not scrollable wishes. These works form part of an ongoing series exploring the chemistry, biological roles, and nutritional significance of bioactive compounds in plant foods. Through his writing, Aslan advocates a practical food-first approach to nutrition. His work emphasizes whole foods, dietary diversity, and balanced eating patterns, rather than reliance on isolated nutrients or supplements. He holds a Master of Arts in International Business and Management from the University of Westminster in London, and writes extensively on nutrition science, health, and food-based approaches to long-term well-being. Aslan Adnan, the quiet revolutionary of real food writing. Aslan Adnan, M.A., is a Malaysian polymath who spent decades turning food into philosophy. Raw, unfiltered, no hype. You won't find him pushing superfoods or miracle diets. He dissects what actually works. Whole plants, spices, microbes, and the quiet chemistry that keeps bodies humming. With over 30 books, self-published, shared freely on Z Library, Facebook groups, Telegram channels, Aslan's output is prolific. Part manifesto, part manual. Early works like Spring Has Sprung, a psychological thriller, and travelogues On the Road to the East Coast reveal his roots in journalism, advertising, and storytelling. But nutrition became his mission. Educated with a Master of Arts in International Business and Management from the University of Westminster, London, he taught at the School of Management, Royal Holloway, London, while pursuing doctoral research in business strategy and environmental management, specializing in the international timber trade. That academic backbone, rigor, systems thinking, sustainability, bleeds into his food writing. No fluff, just evidence. The core series, the Macronutrients Trilogy, Volume 1 on carbohydrates, glucose, fiber, metabolism, Volume 2 on lipids, fats, omega-3s, inflammation, Volume 3 on proteins, repair, enzymes, muscle. Then micronutrients, water, and anti-nutrients, the plant world's double-edged sword. Anti-nutrients are naturally occurring compounds in whole foods, phytates, oxalates, lectins, goitrogens, that can bind minerals, block enzymes, or mess with absorption. They evolved as plant defenses, but in us, they steal iron from spinach, calcium from kale, or spike gut irritation from raw beans. Variety wins. 30 plants a week, not monodiets. Raw's romantic, but cooked smarter. Add spice blends like Aslan's 5-Powder Manifesto, turmeric mixes for real anti-inflammation, and you've got a library that says, eat wide, not weird. Why release it all into the public domain? Because knowledge isn't currency. It's oxygen. Aslan watched corporations gatekeep health, paywalls on papers, patented supplements, proprietary blends that hide what works. He refuses. His books aren't for sale. They're for spread. No DRM, no ads, no ego. Just files anyone can download, print, share. He says it plain. If one person in a kampong swaps white rice for brown or steams kailan instead of boiling it, that's the win, not royalties. He's no gatekeeper. His Facebook, Aslan Green Party, Instagram, and YouTube drop bite-sized truths. Traffic light WFPB guides, eye health talks on lutein, vegan journeys. He credits tradition, curries, forest mushrooms, seaweed from tides, and lives it. Unpeeled carrots, home ferments, no moralizing. 30-plus titles aren't about volume. They're depth. Carbs to phytonutrients, water to gut bugs. Aslan doesn't sell health. He hands you the tools. Read him and your plate changes. Not because you're broken, because you're built for better. A heartfelt light. To every soul whose hand did give, you've helped me dream, helped me live. In darkest hours your light came through, with hearts so kind, so pure, so true. Your gifts, like stars in deepest night, have steered me gently toward the light. Each coin, each word, each silent prayer, a thread of hope so rich, so rare. My eyes once dimmed now seek the skies, and slowly clearer visions rise. Because of you, I dare to see the world again. It's grace, it's plea. Your compassion's flame will not just stay with me alone. It lights the way for others wandering through despair to feel the warmth of selfless care. You've shown what love in action means, in quiet ways through giving scenes. You've built a bridge from soul to soul and made the broken feel more whole. So let this thanks rise like a song, a melody both soft and strong. May your example gently call more hearts to rise to give. To fall into the joy of lifting pain, of planting hope where none remains. Your kindness walks beside me still, a light, a love, a living will.
subscribe button to show your support. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel to show your support.